So I've been playing a lot of Moira recently, actually to the point where I'm confident I can be a reliable source on the matter. So today, I'll be giving you a basic guide to Moira. Moira has 200 HP and is classed as a support. Her utility is in her ability to heal her teammates and deal damage to her enemies. Moira's primary fire is a yellow beam called Piss by the Overwatch community. It is used to heal her teammates with 65 HP per second. This is when you're holding your primary fire. If you only tap the primary fire mouse button, well, 65 healing will be applied over a duration of 4 seconds. This already begs the question of when to tap or when to hold. For now, as a rule of thumb, use your hold when your teammates are significantly hurt. This mostly occurs in the middle of a team fight rather than in a poke phase. Tapping the primary fire button is useful to pre-heal someone who is about to take damage, or if someone can afford to wait 4 seconds to be fully healed again. This is usually in the poke phase. The beam has a range of 15 meters, which is not that long. Her piss is not like other beam abilities, as it is not hit scan. It's like Maze Freeze actually. You have to predict your teammates' movement and lead them while they are taking damage. The beam is also multi-heal, which means that you can heal more than one person at the same time as long as they are both being hit by your piss. Oh my god, piss. And the more healing per second, the faster your ult charges. So try to always target as many teammates as you can at a time. This doesn't mean you should ignore the lone healer who is the only one standing behind you. In fact, it's actually your job to take care of them, but more about that later. Moira's secondary fire is a beam that locks on a target when it's close enough to it. When it does, it will do 50 damage per second. It also heals you for 20 HP per second as long as you're doing damage. It will also speed up the recharge meter for your piss. Oh my god. Note that although your secondary fire can do damage to shields, both the regeneration and the self-heal only activates when you do damage directly to the enemy, so not when you're shooting shields or turrets of any kind, except maybe for Bob. Its range is 5 meters longer than her healing, so it has a range of 20 meters, which is actually pretty significant. Moira's Healing Orb gives everyone in range 65 healing per second until the orb expires or when it's depleted, which means that the maximum healing has been given. The healing threshold is at 300 HP. Note that when it is healing, the speed of the orb is significantly decreased. Also, it will heal yourself as well if you are not at 200 HP. Moira's Damage Orb is like her Healing Orb, but it does damage to the enemy instead of healing the allies, with 50 DPS, and it deals a maximum of 200 damage. Note here that again, when your Damage Orb is damaging, it will fly way slower than it would when there is no one to damage. Also, it can only do damage to persons, so not to objects like turrets, junk mines, and traps, Sombra translocators, Baptiste immortality fields, Hammond mines, Widow mine, and all the barriers in general. It will however deal damage to Bob. The healing and damage orb will either last for 10 seconds or till it's fully depleted. It has a cooldown of 10 seconds as well. The balls will bounce off walls, ceilings, and floors. Using these curves will optimize your ball usage. I can't believe I said that. The balls themselves can go through enemy shields, but their healing or damage cannot. I mean that if you put your shield up and look at the damage orb, as Ryan for example, the ball won't start damaging either you, your shield, nor your teammates who are standing behind your shield. But once you let it past your shield, it will start doing damage from behind the shield. Again, not to the shields themselves, only to the hero standing behind it and yourself. Moira's Fade ability will blast you the way you want at an amazing speed, while you're both invisible so no one can guess where you're going, and you're immortal during the fade. You can cover 15 meters max when using this ability, but if you jump at the end, you can actually gain some more distance. I could guess it's about 5 more meters, and also possibly when you use it on an object that's about shoulders high at max, it might just give you some vertical mobility, but this is pretty hard to pull off consistency. After using it, you will have to wait 6 seconds to use it again, so don't waste it as it is your get out of jail free card. Using Fade cleanses over time status. This means that it cancels Anti-Grenade and Lingering damage effect as well, as just Dynamite effect, the burning effect as well. Maze Freeze but only the slowing down freeze. You won't escape while you're frozen. Since Damage Orb, but also the Healing Orb. You can also use this to get out of some CC ults like Zarya's Graph, Maze Blizzard, Sigma's ult, and if you time it right, you can actually avoid being shattered. Moira's ult is a beam that pierces through everyone, both your team for heals, but also through the enemy for damage. It will also go through all barriers, except Zarya's barrier. I mean that it will go through them, so that people behind the Zarya barrier will get damaged or healed, but it won't be hurting the one inside of the bubble. It has 70 damage per second to your enemies and 140 healing per second on your allies. You'll also regenerate 50 heals per second and gain a speed boost while you're ulting. It has a range of 30 meters and goes through everything including shields other than Zarya's shield, and it also doesn't go through walls. Coalescence lasts for 8 seconds. One animation cancel you should almost always do when you're about to use your ult as Moira is to send a damage or healing orb out, depending on the situation, and then animation cancelling it with your ult for more damage or healing per second. Moira has two extreme playstyles, each on the other end of her spectrum. You have the Healbot Moira, who only heals and never does damage, but on the other hand you have the DPS Moiras, who never heal and complain when they lose, even though they have golden elims. Neither of these playstyles is the way you want to play. Usually you want to focus on healing, because you're a healer after all, but this doesn't mean that you should never try to damage the enemy team, or even go for a kill. As Moira you have 4 objectives. If you do these things perfectly, you should be climbing the ranks like it's nothing. As Moira, you should really not be dying, or at least be the last one to bite the dust, because if you die, your team just lost an insane amount of heals. This means that you should use your fate to its best effect and don't just use it without a purpose, because like I said before, it's your get out of jail free card. Not a lot of heroes in general have such a card. Moira has the single best healing in the game. You should use this to keep up your team at all times. It's your job to heal teammates. The tanks in particular, as they will give you the most ult charge, and because they are vital to winning the team fight. When you're playing Moira, the other healer on your team should take care of the DPS in general, but this doesn't mean that you should ignore someone who's in need of healing. There is really almost no excuse to not have your ult every single fight, as it is so easy to farm. You should always try to farm Coalescence so you have it to win every single team fight and make the difference with it. To get Coalescence as fast as possible, you should be spamming your teammates with heals and throwing damage orbs when you can heal your teammates with your piss. If your piss meter runs out, you just might want to use your healing orb to both keep up the heals and grant you lots of ult charge with it. Your last job as Moira is to peel for your teammates, especially the other support. Moira has probably the single best duel potential, and you can easily help your other healer by healing them, damaging the flanker, throwing a damage orb the flanker's way so that he has to retreat, or sometimes just standing next to your second support is enough to scare the flanker. These are the hero Moira pairs really well with, not only in theory but also in reality. At least that's what I've been feeling in my games as a Moira main. And yes, I'm proud to say that. I honestly think Moira Mercy is the single best support team you can have in almost every single situation. When playing with Mercy, it is still your job to heal the tanks, and Mercy must play like an off-healer, which he actually already is. Also, you can heal the people on the ground. You have the horizontal plane, while Mercy can stay in the air with Pharah or Echo or even a soldier on the high ground, or also if she uses this busted attack called Super Jump. You're also both really mobile heroes, which is always a good thing that both healers can actually keep track of each other and their team. All this, and we haven't even started talking about the actual synergy with these heroes in their abilities. Damage boost on Moira should be illegal. It's so OP. No, it won't help you to give more healing, but it will give you more damage. When damage boosted, you can do your peeling the flanker job with your eyes closed. It's absurd. Even though damage boost doesn't give the damage orb more damage, it will still do a max of 200 damage, but it will make it do more damage per second, meaning it will do this 200 damage faster than it usually would. This can be the difference between dealing the full 200 damage with the damage boost and doing only 100 damage before the ball goes into space like it's Buzz Lightyear. I haven't even talked about the damage boosted coalescence. It's just crazy. Doing almost 100 damage per second is something some DPS heroes could only dream about. And doing all this damage will give Mercy her ult in like 2 seconds. So, for all the Mercy mains out there, please listen. If your Moira is coalescing, damage boost it. If you want your ult. If you like to win, it might just help. So other than how insane damage boost pairs with Moira, let's talk about the res. And it's your job as Moira to make sure that the Mercy doesn't die from resing. In my opinion, it's always worth it when Mercy is going for a risky res to hold your left mouse or even chuck a Healing Orb in her direction, or even to stop damaging with your ult and target the Mercy instead to make sure she doesn't die. Because if you lose the Mercy, that means you didn't only lose the Mercy but also the one she's resing. I mean, she could have gotten the res off, but still losing the Mercy should already be a loss. So you'd either be 1 or 2 down, and that usually already results in a loss, so just don't let your resing Mercy die. You heard how good damage boost is with Coalescence, right? Now using Coalescence with Bongo is even more insane because it's more damage. Using Bongo Coal will usually win the team fight, but sometimes you can actually win it with only using Coalescence. If you ask your Orisa to halt as many enemies as possible, and you Damage Orb Coal into it, this is already a broken combo, dude. You can also just use Combo Halt with Damage Orb if you don't have your ult, yeah. Other than that, it should be really easy to keep your Orisa top, since she won't be moving around so much. Moira works very well in brawl comps. I do think she pairs very well with a Reinhardt and a Zarya, but I won't place Reinhardt with a good matchup because he doesn't really provide a lot of utility and synergy with Moira, other than he's just a huge pile of ult charge. Zarya on the other hand, synergizes pretty well with Moira and can really help her. When the Zarya uses her grab, just Damage Orb and call that bitch to wipe everyone in it. This usually works even through a sound barrier, as long as your team is also shooting it. As Moira, when you're in your ult, you can easily be stunned out of it by like sleeps or accretion rocks, or even just a stun like a McCree stun. But if a Zarya bubbles you, no CC will get you to the ground. So when you decide to use Coalescence, tell your Zarya so she can bubble you. Now we will be going over the heroes Moira doesn't really synergize well with. This doesn't mean that you should never pick Moira when your team is running one of these heroes. As long as you have your second healer take care of them, you will be fine. Widowmaker is usually way out of your range, and it's most of the time not a good idea to throw a Healing Orb her way, because then it's on cooldown, you know? When a Wrecking Ball is in range of your healing, that usually means that he's not doing a very good job. Again, using a Healing Orb is useless because he will probably dodge it by accident because he has better things to do than follow a Healing Orb, you know? Again, Pharah is just way out of your reach. Throwing a Healing Orb is just a waste of healing, and it's almost impossible to like give her the healing effect since she's like moving in a multi-dimensional plane. Is that even the way you should say it? I don't know. Echo works like Pharah, so for the same reason I have for Pharah, I'm just gonna say that Echo doesn't really work well with Moira in a vacuum. But like I said in the beginning, if you have another healer like a Mercy who can pocket the Echo and the Pharah, go with Moira. Just don't heal them. Don't bother healing them. It's just not gonna work. D.Va is the best counter to Moira, and this is because, as Moira, your primary way of getting ult charge is going to be Damage Orbs and Healing Orbs. A good D.Va will always be eating those, therefore delaying your ult. This can easily be the reason why you don't win those matches. Also, D.Va doesn't really care about your damage. She has already just too much health in general, and on top of that, she has armor, which basically renders your damage useless, even your Coalescence actually. Torbjorn is really annoying in general, but to Moira even more. There's no way for you to kill a turret, as it should always be out of your range, and your orbs don't connect to the turret, and also your beam doesn't really do a lot of damage. DPS, right? I mean, like 50,000, that's not a lot. And even without the turret, Torb is heavily favored in the 1v1. When he uses Overload, there is literally no point in trying to damage him. Just ignore him and heal your team. That's just the way to go when there's a Torb on the enemy team. Reaper just does not care about anything of your kit. Your damage is mitigated by Reaper's self-heal, and you are not going to be able to out-heal him. You can stun him out of his ult, and if you let some space between you and the Reaper, he can catch up with either of his two movement abilities. I already said that Moira is supposed to fend off flankers. It's her job not just because, but because she has the upper hand in almost every flanker fight, Genji especially. For Genji to do damage, he has to be in your range. He can't deflect your beam, and if you place them well, he won't be able to deflect your damage orbs either. If Genji dives one of your teammates, you can throw a healing orb their way and then start focusing the Genji, healing your teammate when he's getting low. This will almost always make the Genji run away, or he will just get killed. Tracer is the same as Genji. Just use your healing orb in a duel and damage her for extra sustain and damage. Don't throw the damage orb though, as she can easily blink out of its range. Other than that, there should be no reason for you to lose the 1v1. Moira counters Echo in a more indirect way. Yes, you can easily lock onto Echo when she is in rage, but a good Echo will make sure to keep distance. The way you counter her is this. Echo does so much damage that if you heal all of that damage, you will get your coalescence in like 30 seconds. When you get coal, you can just start mowing down the enemy team.
So that was the basic guide to Moira. I hope it helped you, and see you next time in a more in-depth Moira guide, which I will be going over. I will be doing more in-depth Moira guides and other heroes possibly too, if I start playing other heroes.